just don't get it. I don't get what the hell the McCaskies are waiting for. Have you not seen enough by now? Is there any particular reason to continue down this path? I understand that George McCaskey, Ted Phillips don't have an effing clue when it comes to the game of football, which is why, being the dumb dicks that they are, whenever it's time to go, let's say, hire a general manager, they're always trying to bring in some type of headhunter agency, which brings them a Jerry Angelo. Boy! Or they bring in numbnuts Ernie Accorsi, so that way he can lead you down the wrong path by helping you find the young wonder kid that's a total turd in Ryan Pace and the old fossil frickin' John Fox, because, yeah, that's what you need. Third time's the charm, right? So I get it. Like, when you think about the mediocrity of the McCaskey way, like, there is certainly a remedial aspect here. Like, if you're thinking about football, you're thinking about the NFL, and you're thinking about, levels of education and so forth. The Chicago Bears certainly ride the short bus to the league meetings every year, if you get my drift. But as we sit here, right now, not only is it a tremendous time at this very moment, or any moment afterwards, believe me, it would be just fine, to fire Ted Phillips. I have to ask, what the hell is the deal? What are we waiting for? Haven't we seen enough? Why aren't Ryan Pace and Matt Nagy already fired? And you're going to say, well, it's just not the McCaskies' jam. It's just not how they do things. Well, number one, that's exactly why the hell they should be doing it, because it's not what they've done in the past. The things that they've done in the past are the freaking problem. So why would you continue to perpetuate this cycle and hold on to some foolish hope that they can slip in as the 7th seed in the freaking playoffs where they're not going to go anywhere? Like, this incessant desire to stay loyal to these people that don't freaking deserve it, to sit there and give these people way too much time because you're afraid, because you already screwed up and keep screwing up, so you're afraid of doing it because you don't want to screw up the next time, instead of hiring competent football people that actually know what the hell they're doing so they don't keep screwing up the problem. Here we sit with a turd Ferguson of a head coach and a completely incompetent nincompoop as a general manager. And some of you are going to sit there and try to defend one or both of these clowns. At this point, I would ask you, why? Why are you trying to defend either one of them? Like the Ryan Pace thing. I've been on this Fire Ryan Pace bandwagon since last year. Welcome to most of you that caught up to reality. What could possibly be your defense at this point? What could it be? Seriously. Look at his draft history. All of you are going to point out some of the picks that he made in rounds 4, 5, 6 and try to point to, like, that speaks to his scouting mind and his football acumen. Yeah, like he was a regional scout or an area scout or maybe a director of college scouting. That's not general manager worthy. When you look at the marquee notable picks, the first rounders, the second rounders, that's where the GM really comes into play. And this organization has rolled cracks for the most part during Pace's tenure. Kevin White, 2015. Yeah, I liked him. I was wrong on him too. Like, it sucks, but the reality is the accountability has to be there. You missed bad on him. And he followed up in 2016 with Leonard Floyd. You ended up trading up from 11 to 9. Since then, trended a pattern. Moving up to get a guy that could have very well been there. As a result, doesn't really work out. And of course, now as soon as he leaves Chicago, he goes on to have his best season. But you look at 2017, above all else, Mitchell Trubisky. Not only did you take this clown ahead of Mahomes and Watson, you took him and traded up. So you panicked for the guy that nobody was going to take because everybody with a brain should have known that this guy didn't have franchise-level stuff. But Ryan Pace didn't, and he took the turn. He basically took the Blake Bortles of that draft class. And as a result, you look now and you're saying, in 5+ seasons, we're more than 5.5 seasons into Ryan Pace's tenure, this team has a record of 39-52. Think about that. 39-52. One division title, which was 2 years ago. Playoff loss. I couldn't even get one freaking playoff win. And now you're talking about another season potentially without a playoff appearance where they're trending towards a middling first-round pick. They don't have great future draft pick capital because Ryan Pace is a moron. He overreacts and panics like a kid that you're giving a $5 bill for his allowance. Can't wait to blow it on the first line of candy that he freaking sees. You have nothing. You're lacking draft pick capital. You don't have an answer at the quarterback position. Not only did this idiot miss big when he gave Mike Glennon big money, then he doubled down on the stupidity by trading up to draft Trubisky, who's been a total turd. And then, oh, by the way, this offseason, when it was clearly obvious, by now, 3 years in, Trubisky ain't that dude, he sits there and goes a half-ass approach by trading for Nick Foles, giving away more draft pick capital to accumulate a guy or acquire a guy that the Jags intentionally had overpaid for because they are freaking morons, just to trade him away a year later. If a team is so desperate to get rid of a guy, maybe that should tell you, ding dong, dumb dick, he ain't the dude. So you got no future at quarterback. You have middling draft pick capital. You don't have a lot of draft pick capital. And all the while, you're still sitting there, the most important position in the organization that you never get right. You still don't have right, and you still got to find a way to get right, and ultimately the only way to get that right is through the draft, and you don't have the draft pick capital to be able to go up and make a big move while addressing all the other numerous holes on this team, both on the offensive and, yes, dumb dicks, even the defensive side of the ball. Oh, and now, by the way, because Ryan Pace is a moron, because he picked the wrong quarterback, and he gambled on that, and he gave up 2 first-round picks for Khalil Mack, and he tried to build a team the wrong way, not in step with the modern NFL, the Bears have no cap space either. And you could say, well, they could cut some guys and rework some guys, and you got $30 million plus maybe in cap space. So what? Whoop-de-doo. Who the hell's going to want to come there? And you look at the Bears, and you say, this is a team that's built the way they've always been built. Like, you're supposed to have this young wonder kid guy come in because he was associated with the Saints and they were offense first. And by association, somehow, he's supposed to understand what a real quarterback looks like and what a real NFL offense looks like. And instead, we get Ryan Pace and this crap show that is the Bears offense year in and year out. And we can't just blame Ryan Pace. Because it's one thing to have a turd as a general manager, but that said turd also hired a turd as a head coach. Some of you still like Matt Nagy, and I don't know why. It is clearly obvious, as going back to last year, that this dude didn't have it. 2018 was a fluke. The coach of the year stuff. Vic Fangio was the coach for that team. That mattered. He was the real coach of the year if it wasn't Frank Reich and Indy. How the hell Matt Nagy won coach of the year? I have no freaking clue. But at least in 2018, it felt like he tried. Like he was creative. He did different things. He took risks. He took gambles. He hasn't done any of that the last 2 years. It took him way too long to give up play calling duties. Because he can only throw, but so many people are under the bus. He already had fired one offensive coordinator, one offensive line coach. So that way he brought in other guys that also don't know what the hell they're doing, by the way. So he gave the play calling duties too late because he couldn't throw any other coaches under the bus. And he seems to sit there and like to now throw his players under the bus after his team gets walloped coming off of a bye week, playing in primetime against the Packers. Well, you had 2 whole weeks to prepare for them, and that's what you did? Like, this jackass can't even find a way to win games when they have 2 weeks to prepare for it. Like, losing to the Packers aside, that embarrassment. You're a Bears fan, you get used to that by now. And frankly, I don't care. They could go 14-2 every year, lose to the Packers twice, and win a Super Bowl. Who the hell cares? Let the Chiefs have handle meaningless victories. I want a goddamn Lombardi trophy at Hallis Hall. Ugh. But when you look at the Bears and when you look at this, it's supposed to be this offensive genius. It's one thing to say Trubisky's not the guy, Foles is not the guy, but this guy consistently puts these guys in bad positions. He was putting Trubisky in positions where Trubisky, one thing he had was some athleticism, so you try to make him a pocket passer. Foles, who's basically statuesque in the pocket, you're trying to roll him out like, this is just the stupidity. Their offense has no purpose, their offense has no motion that does anything, like there's no design, there's no identity, there's no anything. And when you look at this Bears team, and you're saying, okay, It's Bears football. It's typical crap. It absolutely is. Why should both of these clowns be fired? Think about it like this. A modern NFL team that knows what the hell they're doing, that's caught up with the times, will actually find a way a few times a year to score 30-plus points on the offensive side of the ball. The Bears under Matt Nagy have done that 7 times. 4 times in 2018, twice last year, only once this year, and that was against the Falcons. So what the hell does that mean? Meanwhile, their defense that is so vaunted that they've invested so many resources in, if you want to say, hey, a great defense should be able to hold the opponents to 20 points or less, 2018 they did it 11 times in the regular season, plus the playoffs. 2019 they did it 10 times. This year they've only done it 5. So the substitute of the offense is now carrying over to the defense. And we surely saw that Sunday night, against the Packers. Meanwhile, if you want to base yourself off of an organization that clearly knows what the hell they're doing, because they've got a head coach and a play caller that knows what they're doing, they've got that franchise quarterback, and they've actually got an elite-level offense, let's look at the Kansas City Chiefs and what could have been. Never mind the fact that Andy Reid was actually available back in 2013. But Phil Emery had a hard arm for Mark Trestman. Nah, we're not going to go out there and get the big name. Let's get the turd from the CFL. The Chiefs on offense, whereas the Bears have scored in the past 2+ seasons, 30+ points a total of 7 times. The Chiefs have done it 26. 26. Is it any surprise that the previous 2 seasons, the Chiefs went 12-4, made it to the AFC Championship game, lost in overtime to the Patriots, thanks Steve Ford, and then the next year 12-4, became Super Bowl champs. And by the way, when they got to the playoffs, you look at the number of points that they scored in each of those 3 playoff games, 51 points, 35 points, 31 points. And meanwhile, the one time the Bears got into the playoffs, they managed to score, 15? And when you think about it from a defensive standpoint, this is how ridiculous and stupid this is. You look at the Chiefs, you could argue that their defense is better this year than the Bears. Because whereas the Chiefs gave up 20 points or less only 4 times in 2018 and 7 times in 2019. Already in 2020, they've done it more times than the Chicago Bears. 7 times versus 5. So this defense is so great and so vaunted. The Chiefs have a vastly superior offense in every facet, shape, form, and capacity. They've actually got the young, long-term franchise starter at quarterback. They've got the Hall of Fame head coach and great play caller and offensive mastermind in Andy Reid. And all the while, they seem to have built up at least a competent defense that can hold up enough. Why does this organization continue to hold on to these guys that continue to utilize these outdated philosophies? If this isn't enough to tell you that Ryan Pace and Matt Nagy should be shown the door, I don't know what the hell is. Matt Nagy's supposed to know better too. He's supposed to be a guy, former quarterback in the Arena League, a guy that worked under Andy Reid. He should know better. He doesn't. He sucks. You look at the results, they just suck. If you're comparing them to the Chiefs, you look at point differential. 2019, the Chiefs were plus 143, Bears minus 18. If you want to go back to 2018, 5, when they both had 12-4 records, the Chiefs still had a better point differential, and they actually had an offense. The Bears didn't that year, and don't try to tell me they really did, because they really didn't. The Chiefs scored 30 or more points in the regular season 11 times. The Bears did it 4. Who has the real offense? And this year, the Chiefs already 11 games into the season, their point differential plus 110. Bears minus 34. Enough is enough. This shit is not going to change in the next 5 weeks. This is not going to get any better. It is only going to get worse. And if you want to make it seem so bad, let's take a look at this. The Jaguars since 2015 are 30-61. They also have 1 division title. They also failed miserably at the quarterback position. First with Blake Bortles, who they took 3rd overall in 2014. And then, of course, bringing in Nick Foles. Very similar how this all works out. But they, at least in that year that they won the division in 2017, they had 2 playoff wins. And by God, they went into Foxborough, were up double digits in the 4th quarter in the AFC Championship game against the freaking Patriots. They're also really bad this year. They've already fired Caldwell, their general manager. Why wait? He's had plenty of time. They know he sucks. Marone's around the rest of the year, but only to help him tank. Because the Jaguars, unlike the Bears, because the Bears are freaking stupid, the Jaguars actually have a chance of getting a marquee, notable top pick in this upcoming draft. And not only that, whereas the Bears have no cap space and limited draft pick capital, hey, who needs a 4th-round pick? Why do you need those? No 6th-round picks either, because we just want to give these away like a freaking drunken sailor at the bar. The Jaguars, at least they're bad and they stink and they're terrible. But that's an intriguing option, and that's an intriguing organization because you got 2 firsts, you got 2 seconds, you got a third, a couple of 4th rounders, a couple of 5th rounders, a couple of 7th rounders. Bottom line is they're going to be picking high, and they got a shit ton of draft capital to build around their quarterback that they end up taking in that draft one way or another. They also have upwards of $80 million of cap space. What the hell organization would you be? And if the Jaguars, who seem to be so intently, stubbornly behind David Caldwell for absolutely no freaking reason for no damn long, can finally come to their senses and realize that David Caldwell must be shown the door, especially in a season like this. Give yourself an opportunity to get a jump start, a head start at finding the right guy, finding the next guy. Then why in the hell can't the Chicago Bears do the same thing? The Jaguars are every bit the crappy organization the Bears are, and even they are getting basic fundamental things better here than the freaking McCaskies. Like, that's terrible. That's pathetic. It's not only bad for the Bears, but it's not going to get better. It's only going to get worse. And sorry, Bears fans, you're staring down the barrel of needing to do yet another rebuild. And you know why? It's because Ted Phillips and George McCaskey don't know what the hell they're doing, so they put their faith in somebody like Ernie Akorski. Yeah, that's who I want to bring in. The guy that traded up in 2004 to get the 3rd best quarterback in that draft. Yeah, let me go ahead and get his input. You see how that worked out. 6 years of Ryan Pace. We have seen enough. And yes, almost 3 years of Matt Nagy. You have seen enough. That Packers game, if you had any doubts or any misbeliefs that he was actually competent or any freaking good, those should be totally dispelled by now. It's over. You have no more arguments. You have no more legs to stand on. That goes for dumbass Bears fans, stupid people on Bears Twitter, stupid people in Bears team media, and the organization itself. The quicker you start the bloodletting, the quicker you move the hell on, the better off it is for everybody. For everybody. Do it. Do it now. 1 playoff appearance in 5 seasons should have been enough to show Ryan Pace the door. Now you're trending to 1-6. Goodbye, sayonara, see you later. And you can hang on to that 12-4 in 2018 all you want. But again, Vic Fangio was the real coach of the year for that team, not Matt Nagy. You've seen the truth the last 2 seasons. You know what the reality is. And as much of a turd as Trubisky is, clearly Matt Nagy has done nothing positive to help develop him. He got to go too. Do you really want to take the risk of these 2 asshats being in charge of this organization again next year? How do you think that's going to go? So I don't know what the hell you're waiting for, Chicago Bears. The evidence is so clearly there. The Chiefs have shown you the right way to build a modern NFL team. And if you're going to be bad, at least be the Jaguars and totally suck, but set yourself up well for the future. You, of course, stay in that lane of the mediocrity of the McCaskey way. Do something to change that. Fire both of these clowns. Go knocking on the damn Ravens' door and overpaying massively to bring in Ozzie Newsome and tell him you're at the Epstein. Fix this. Fire Nagy, fire Pace, and do it now. What the hell are you waiting for?